Mr. Media is recorded live before a studio audience of climate change deniers who are happy to be sweating in winter and freezing in summer in the new media capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. I imagine that the first requirement of directing documentary films is that whatever the subject, you believe in the righteousness of your position, whether left or right. Center? The center is for wimps and flippity floppers. No one changes minds by making a balanced documentary film. Peter Byck, the co-writer and director of Carbonation, didn't put together a film that presents the pros and cons of climate change and carbon usage. Instead, he put together a fact-based challenge to non-believers. And what I like best about Byck's approach is that instead of just scaring viewers to death, he takes a business-friendly approach to solutions. He took his cameras around the world to show how different industries and governments are addressing issues. He also interviews some big league opinion makers. That gets attention, including Richard Branson, the CEO of Virgin Group, Thomas Friedman from the New York Times and many very popular best-selling books, and former CIA Director James Woolsey. The film is narrated by CBS, or former CBS anchor Bill Curtis. Carbonation is in limited release at movie theaters. You can see where it's playing in your community at carbonationmovie.com. Peter Byck, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bob.
Hey, I made a bunch of assumptions in my introduction about you and your point of view in making Carbonation. Did I overstate anything there?
Yeah, actually, I would say that we set out specifically to own the middle. Because I think the middle's where action happens. I don't think in this day and age too many filmmakers are changing too many opinions. I think they're sort of solidifying opinions, it seems, in a lot of films. And there's really good filmmakers that I hold in high esteem. I personally think Michael Moore is a hero, and but I don't know if he's changing too many minds these days. To what you were saying, sort of in reverse of what you were saying in the opening statement there.
I'm a little surprised to hear you say that because I watched the film, and it while it seems fair, I would hardly say that it's balanced in the sense that you're getting both points of view, the people who believe in climate change and the people who don't. I thought it was pretty well in the direction of the climate is changing and here's what people are doing and here's what can be done.
Yeah, but to me, the fact of a balanced statement about climate change needs to have both sides is in itself a victory for the folks who've been poisoning the well of this discussion for 2 and 3 decades. When you talk to climatologists, accredited, studied climatologists, there are plus 95% that support climate change. So that's 1 to 20. Mm-hmm. So every 19 times you interview someone, if you had one person who disagreed with them, that would be the balance. That would be the actual fairness. That all being said, and I'm the first one to say that I'm a whiny liberal who absolutely believes in climate change, we found out early on that there are people who are doing the things I would do because I am concerned about climate change, but they're not. Mm-hmm. But they're still doing it. A perfect example is Bernie Carl up in Alaska. He is revolutionizing geothermal power, and he doesn't think humans are the cause of climate change. He likes clean air, mm-hmm. and he likes clean water, and that's enough for him. He doesn't like smokestacks. He doesn't understand why we have to make energy and pollute at the same time. Mm-hmm. He thinks that's just crazy. But he doesn't believe humans are the cause of climate change, yet he's doing more than I'll ever do in my life in creating a clean energy option. So what we realized while making the film is the whole back and forth about climate isn't necessary to start moving, like really start moving. Mm-hmm. And so many companies are already doing it, but they're worried about that perception of people not believing versus believing. So they're keeping it quiet. They're not publicizing it. But big companies like Dow and Disney, big companies, and smaller companies like Stonyfield Farm, they're doing it. Uh-huh. They're doing it. And so that's where we were. We started the film just absolutely believing climate change was real and that the argument was over. We were wrong. We didn't realize that the argument wasn't over. But what we realized by the people we met was, guess what? The argument can actually be put right here, not erased, but over here. Our film is about solutions to climate change that are also great business opportunities, very strong national security opportunities, very strong energy security opportunities, and that's where and just plain old greed. I mean, why waste?
Right.
Why waste energy? Even if you don't care about the byproduct of the energy production, why waste it? And that's where we have really come to be in the film.
Well, that's the whole solutions-based approach that I liked. I mean,
Yeah.
instead of just screeching at people, which I don't think is terribly effective,
No, it's not.
you take this approach where, look, here's what people are doing, and why can't we just do more of this or do more of this? And you have examples where you not only are talking to people, but you're also showing what's happening.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, when you look at, we've got a pretty wide variety of people in our film, and you can look at them from a wide variety of political spectrum. Mm-hmm. We've got Van Jones, who he himself says that he used to be known as a radical in the Bay Area, which is pretty hard to do, all the way to Jim Woolsey, who used to head up the CIA, to John Rowe, who's the head of Exelon, to Jim Rogers, to Richard Branson. We've got a whole spectrum of conservative business leaders, more liberal business leaders, certainly more liberal regular folks, more conservative regular folks, who are all going in the same direction. Mm-hmm. And if everybody like that huge swath of people are all going in the same direction, then to me, that gives strength to the argument that a clean energy economy, a low carbon economy, can actually work, and it can work well. I mean, there aren't too many businessmen on this planet, as big as their hearts might be, that would do something with their company that wasn't good for their company. They couldn't mm-hmm. do it, and they wouldn't do it.
You mentioned Van Jones, you mentioned Woolsey. I think the big real attention getter here is the participation of Richard Branson. How did you net that fish?
Yeah, it was a pretty funny story. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I actually just moved back 2 years ago. But this was before I moved back. I was living in California for a long time to go to film school and do the whole career. And I was at a Kentucky Derby party back home, and he was at the party. It was at the house of some people who own a distillery back there, and they were doing a business with him with virgin wine. And I just said to him, I said, I'd love to put you in a movie. May I keep in touch? You know, and he gave me his email, his assistant's number, his office number, and let me keep in touch with him for like 2 years until I actually had a movie to put him in. And he was the first person I asked to be in this film, and he said yes through email. And I said, maybe we tell people that you're going to be in the film, and he said yes. And so by him saying yes, first day of shooting, before one frame was shot of this movie, I had a commitment by Richard Branson to be in the film, and that was incredibly helpful in netting other big fish like Tom Friedman. We had to do a little bit of angling to get Tom in the net. Jim Woolsey was just straight up just cool. I met him at a conference. I said, "Hey, you want to be in the movie?" He's like, "Absolutely." And then Jim Woolsey, the former CIA director, proceeded to tell me his theory about Cheech and Chong's Up in Smoke. And he says, "You know that van that they have in Up in Smoke? It's made out of pot." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "If they had been running on biofuels, that would have been the perfect car." And I knew that it was going to be great to have him in the movie. So that, you know, sometimes it's real easy, sometimes it's a lot of work, and sometimes it's somewhere in between. Getting on the big Army bases that we got on and the Air Force bases was very difficult. My wife, Krishna, who's a producer on the film, finally got us onto bases where Jim Woolsey and his people that he was hooking me up with couldn't. We got locked and lost at the Pentagon. And Krishna went in through the film office in Hollywood. And the guy who was there was from Louisville, was a big University of Louisville Cardinals basketball fan. So when I walked in his office after she set up the meeting, he's like, "Wow, we're in. We're both big Cardinals fans."
Well, one more question before we break. You mentioned Tom Friedman. a guy like that come to this and try to persuade you further to his point of view, or are you already at that point, or is he? How did that work with him? Is he trying to, you know, take a little charge and steer you in one direction or another?
No, I mean, T- Tom Friedman was one of the people who said early on that he would be in the movie, and it was just difficult to get some time. So we actually got him at a Conservation International board dinner. We got him between dinner and dessert,
Wow.
literally, at the Museum of Natural History in New York. So if you look at the shot, you'll see the big blue whale behind him, and and that's no comment on him not wanting to do it. I think it's a comment on how in demand that
Sure.
man is. I mean, in his world, he's like Oprah. He gets requests to pitch and to plug and do all
Hmm.
sorts of stuff. So we had read his articles while researching the film, and we had been shooting over a year by the time we interviewed him. And all I can say is I was just right there with him. I was just excited because his articles were describing what we were hoping to achieve in our movie. So it wasn't a steering as much as it was a, um, a validation.
Okay.
It was a validation of where we were trying to get the
All
film
right.
to go.
Well, let's take a quick break. This is Bob Andelman, and you're listening to and hopefully watching the Mr. Media Radio interview with Peter Byck, the director of the documentary film Carbon Nation. And we'll be